to episode 206 of Come On You Reds, the Toronto FC podcast, now live in real person. Kind of. If you're listening to this, you can now watch us on our YouTube channel, Toronto FC. My name is Gareth Wheeler alongside my main man, Toronto FC legend, Terry Dunfield. What's going on, Terry?
Nothing, man. Just got in from academy training. I was saying to Jerome just before we jumped on here, man, there's a lot to the coaching world. There's just so many layers. Oh.
This is why you need to watch us on YouTube to see how stressed out Terry looks right now. What's going on in the academy? Tell us about academy life with the Terry Dunfield Academy update.
I mean, things are great. I mean, it's so exciting that Jaquil's being spoken about by Marshall Ruddy, by Greg Vanny, Jaden Nelson's in squads. We've got a couple players out on loan. And we're back at the training ground. We've been back training for 7 weeks. So lots of positive news. But just understanding this coaching world is like learning something new. It's exciting. But the deeper you start to go, it's like, wow, there's a lot of layers to this. And it's fun being able to execute it every day with the little dudes.
It's an incredible commitment for you out there. And some of you may be coaches at various levels. I was chatting on One Soccer a little bit earlier today to former FC Edmonton head coach Jeff Paulus. And he said that he was having heart palpitations and he wasn't feeling well. Seriously, I'm not even sure if it's a joking matter. Just he wasn't feeling healthy. He was constantly stressed out being a head coach. And now since he stepped away, he's like, all those issues have gone away. It's just, I think it's the individual pressure that you put on yourselves. You are also responsible for bringing through young players and helping with them with their career, as well as doing everything the right way and making sure that you win in the process. Like, it's all encompassing. So I give anyone that kind of moves forward through the coaching profession all the credit in the world.
Well said, for sure. It's a big responsibility, and there's a little bit less pressure on results for sure in the academy, but you're helping these young kids hopefully realize their dreams.
Do you know how I know that you're busy? I don't hear from you anymore. You don't call me anymore. We don't hang out anymore. I miss you, buddy. I miss you.
Oh, I miss you. I'm feeling this. I've got Greg Vanny's kids on my team too. See,
now the truth is coming out. You're trying to impress the gaffer, aren't you?
No. I'm man marking him right now. And fortunately, he's top of the league, so he's in a good place.
Awesome.
Not that would change him. I mean, he's driven by so many things.
Look at that. See, now we're starting to peel back the layers and get the truth behind the situation. On this week's episode, back-to-back wins for Toronto FC now. They're top of the table in Major League Soccer. We'll reflect upon the most recent 2 victories. Guess what? TFC, Seattle, both teams back on top of their respective conferences. Is that a surprise? Tip of the cap to Alex Bono and what Toronto FC will do with a busy schedule and some injuries coming up as well. And of course, our high five coming up a little bit later as Jerome will join me for that. Let's get straight to it, Terry. Back-to-back games. 2 wins for Toronto FC coming in much different fashions. The 2-1 win against Philadelphia, I thought over the course of the 90 minutes, Toronto FC played a very good Union team simply off the field despite conceding in the 4th minute. They come back with goals from Akinola and Pozuelo to pick up the full 3 points. Then they go on a road to a place they haven't won since 2013. Were you on that team in 2013? Matthias Laba got the winner. It was 8 straight games that TFC hadn't picked up a victory at Foxborough. They did so with some solid defensive work, only 40% possession, but another gritty victory, character win for Toronto FC, and a 1-0 victory. Akinola with the winner in the 29th minute. So we'll reflect upon those 2 games. We don't have to go through every moment, but what's your biggest takeaway from Toronto FC, this most recent winning streak, and in particular, the way they played the last 2 games?
Yeah, I think team performance comes to mind. I think within the structure, players are really flourishing, expressing themselves. But some of the grit is through the roof, and to pick up results on the road when you're away from home from a long time, it's tough. And it seems like any adversity that hits this group right now just gets knocked out of the park. And the two things that come to mind is conceding a tough goal early on against Philadelphia, and then look, everyone hates going to Foxborough. This is a horrible place to play, and TFC just went into that stadium and owned it. And man, did they protect that goal well.
Even watching
the box, like protected Bono.
Absolutely. But even watching games from afar at Foxborough, it's not enjoyable, Terry. It's just a completely different game. The ball doesn't really run true. You're just hoping that your players come out of there unscathed. It just looks like a miserable place to play. You've played there over the course of your career. It's difficult to go in and win there because New England sets up to play to their strengths on that field. Just how difficult is it of a trip to go to New England and come away with anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, this New England team's tough. They've got a ton of pace out wide. They're set up to counter. They kind of play off the big man Buxa, and they're almost sort of preying off any mistakes that you might make. And I thought TFC looked after the ball, but I think just mentally is the biggest one is knowing. Not only are you up against the conditions, you're up against a Bruce Arena team that doesn't score a ton, but they don't concede a lot. They're a team that's difficult to break down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw it over the course of 90 plus minutes. Let's start there. And it was a night where, honestly, Ayo Akinola could have had 3 goals. He comes away with 1, a bully of a finish. And that's what people are talking about coming out of that game is whether that goal should have stood or not. Pozuelo played I thought it was a very well-weighted ball considering the conditions at Foxborough to Akinola, and he simply just bullied Andrew Farrell off the ball. He went, over tea kettle, went down, the ball popped up, and a nice outside the foot finish into the low corner by Ayo, his 8th goal of the season. The debate on the television broadcast was whether it should have been called for a foul or not. What do you think, Terry?
My first gut reaction was it's a foul. Normally you'll see those given. Having watched it 100 times since, I don't know if there's enough in there. I think it's close enough to shoulder on shoulder. I don't really see Ayo push his arm out. I think his arm's close to him. I think Farrell's not really ready for the contact. He's slow to move his feet around. And I'd like to see more no calls in these plays. I think players go over too easily. And this isn't me with my, yes, I got a TFC polo on right now. But this is a neutral analyst hat on that, you know what? I think looking at it a few times, it's not a foul. And I think that's why VAR stayed away from it as well.
I'm with you. There needs to be an acceptable level of contact. And that is Ayo's game. And he's 20 years old. He's built like a brick house. And what happens is your arm inevitably extends out after you make contact with a player. Now, if he pushed the player simply from behind, or if he came from an improper defensive position, then I have no problem with the call being made under those circumstances. But he almost was like in line with the player. And it was like 2 players challenging for a 50-50 ball who came together. It wasn't Farrell's absolute 100% ball. He wasn't in possession, and Ayo wasn't pushing off. And if you want to compare it, and we showed it in after 90 minutes, at MLS's back, Ayo Akinola did a very similar thing to Raitala of Montreal, but he was goal side that time. The arm went out. It was extended. Raitala went over, and Ayo went in and scored his 3rd goal for his hat trick that day. If one's going to be called, then both need to be called. If one isn't, neither get called. And I think it was a good no call. against Montreal. And I think it's a good no call this time around as well.
Well said. I agree with your point. I think that that's one of the keys as well, is his shoulder is sort of lower part of his upper arm doesn't actually go into the back of Farrell. I think it's close enough where it's in that range of shoulder to shoulder. I think if he goes into the back of Farrell, then it's a different call.
Right.
Sure. And then I think that the plays are a little bit different for sure. The goal against Montreal and Reitel does come to mind, but man, this guy's he's a beast.
If Andrew Farrell doesn't go all gymnast on us and do like a couple somersaults and a triple axel, then we're not talking about it. If he stood up and took it and stood on his feet, I don't think that there would even be a debate about it, right? And oftentimes when contact is made, a player loses balance. It was the fact that he went down that it became a discussion point for me. So it was a good goal, good service. Akinola came close. I think he went just past the far post a little bit earlier before he got his first goal. And then just an insane ball was played by Pozuelo from left to right that bent around the back line. Like, it was just such an incredible ball that played Ayo in, and he played it just off the far side of the post. Honestly, he could have had a hat trick on the night, and he has been that good. I look at him, Terry, and just the strength of the player. You look at him, it's like, yeah, that's a young Josie Altidore out there. I look at it now at this stage of Josie's career. He doesn't have the legs that Ayo has, but the way that he's physical and demanding on defenders, it reminds me of a young Altidore.
Yeah, I can see that. Altidore played out on the wing a little bit, but two things, Wheels. One, I think having Ayo living on the last man's shoulder and that threat in behind is so important away from home. I think it allows you to commit more bodies to really protecting the middle of the field. And you can sit a little bit deeper knowing you've got him on the counter. And I think what's great for Ayo, and Greg's done a great job with it, is really defining his job and his role out on that field. And it's not to really get involved in the build. I mean, there'll be times he comes and shows and bounces the ball off. But every time TFC pick up that ball, it's not random. He's running in behind, and the ball from Mark Delgado that he takes off his cheek at pace to get him behind in the first half. That is a ridiculous action, and to manipulate your body to still have speed to get him behind was something else, and very creative. And the ball in the second half from Pozuelo, it reminded me of, do you remember an MLS Cup final when Vasquez played that ball in behind from that same side of the field?
Right. Yeah, very much so.
That's what came to mind.
Yeah, it was just an incredible ball. Over the course of the game, I thought Toronto FC, like you said, kept New England for the most part on the outside. Buxa had one chance inside, just had a yard of space between him and Laurent Simon, who I thought played one of his best games for Toronto FC, by the by. Alex Bono was a little bit shaky at times, but came up with the big saves when need be on the season. You can't complain. 3 games, three clean sheets for Alex. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. And really, the only noticeable blemish was a very rare defensive mistake made by Marky Delgado, diving into a challenge on Lee Win, and led to a penalty with Buxa. I think the ball's still in the sky right now. Other than that, there's not too much to complain about in terms of the defensive work and the defensive shape, which says something considering Tony Gallagher's got the start instead of JMO or Aro Jr. Omar Gonzalez had the night off. So there was some rotation, yet this defensive structure remains solid and stable.
It does. And what a vote of confidence when the teams just won 3 to bring in Simon. I think him and Mavinga, you can tell, have a natural chemistry. And I thought Simon was outstanding other than that maybe moment. But he was out there fighting and scrapping for the team. And you'd say he's this composed. When you think about Simon, you think about this composed center back that loves to play out of the back, but He rolled his sleeves up, got after it. He was a proper defender on the night. And watching Chris play, do you feel like, I think Mavinga looks as though he's put a little bit of weight on. I feel like he's a little bit more durable, which is great. And to see him chalking up appearance after appearance is fantastic. I think Richie Larea is turning into one of the best fullbacks in this league. And I think what's next for him is we're not talking about maybe getting into our team. We're talking, and you're talking about the best team in the league right now. You're talking MLS All-Star now, and a regular for Canada. That's what the next 12 months are, hopefully, for him.
I was mentioning this on After 90 Minutes as well. It's not just him going forward anymore. His defensive work is starting to line up. He is so composed when he gets on the ball from a defensive position, just slick footwork, very comfortable. If he has a man on him, he's making good decisions and creating space for himself. And that New England Revolution chance in the first half where the ball's played to the far post, he's got the player Fagundes over his left shoulder and he sticks his foot out just to get enough on the ball to put it out of play. Like, that is incredibly difficult to execute as a far post defender, not knowing what's behind you, but knowing that it's critical, not just to get a touch, but to put it into the right spot. I thought it was just a great piece of defending, which kind of encapsulates kind of his growth in that position.
For sure. And you talk about his athleticism, but also just the positioning to be in the right spot to make a play. And I think that's where your question marks over is can Richie defend that back post? Can he defend overloads? And he's starting to tick those boxes for sure right now. I thought Marky Delgado was outstanding on the night. I thought he was arguably our best player on the field. And I think that the confidence of playing so well maybe leads to him taking a risk where he gives a penalty away because he's just in the zone. And he feels like he can do anything in that moment rather than just taking a deep breath and saying, okay, as long as they don't get a shot off, we're good. But yeah, I thought he was great. It was interesting that Bruce Arena made a sub during the penalty. I don't know if you noticed that. 2 subs. It was very weird. A couple players on, and Puks he's struggling a little bit. You can see his confidence is low. To have any extra time over top of that penalty is the last thing you'd think he'd want.
No Hill, no Bo in their team, but still no excuses. I mean, every team has dealt with injuries, including Toronto FC over the course of this season, yet they find themselves top the table. Before I transition to the Philadelphia game, just want to give a shout out. Tajon Buchanan, 21 years of age out of Brampton, playing for New England Revolution, one of a number of young Canadian players that are doing well and getting plenty of starting minutes for MLS teams. He looks to be a player to watch if you're looking ahead to next summer's Gold Cup. This Alistair Johnston, right back, if you haven't been following, a draft pick of Nashville, he has been excellent and could be a future right back on your Canadian men's national team as well. And Dane Sinclair, the goalkeeper with Minnesota United, just all 3 players are catching the eye and have to be in John Herdman's plans one way or the other. But I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Buchanan because he was a handful to deal with over the course of the game the other night, Terry. And look, I think the final product might not quite be there, but you see that he has the ability, the athleticism, and the little bit of directness to cause some problems.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think he improved from when we played against New England at MLS's back. I think even in a couple of months, you can see there's a little bit more to his game. And what makes him difficult to defend is he's very unpredictable. You're not 100% sure what he's going to do. He's got quick feet where he can kind of cut inside and deliver that in-swinging kind of De Bruyne ball. I agree with you. When that quality is added to it, it'll be a little bit more dangerous. And then if you over-defend that, he can beat you to the byline as well. And I'd say defensively, he tries. He does get back. And playing regular minutes at obviously a good level in MLS is saying he's knocking on John Herdman's door for sure.
Yeah. New England's still a playoff team, still sit in 6th in the Eastern Conference. I wanted to spin back to that Philadelphia game, because you mentioned Marky Delgado being one of, if not the best player on the park. The key to that win against Philadelphia was dominating the middle of the park. And Jonathan Osorio and Marky Delgado did a job. Brendan Aronson, one of the best young players in Major League Soccer, didn't have a sniff all game. This double pivot, the way that they played and way the group played and dominated that game throughout the midfield, I was so impressed. They made Philadelphia look second class, and this is one of the best teams in Major League Soccer, coming from behind to win that game 2-1. But I thought the engine of the team, that midfield, just simply dominated proceedings to really put TFC in a position where they're, where the talented players went out and did their business and brought in the 2 goals that end up leading to the win. How good was the midfield that game? Do you kind of agree with me that they kind of set the tone for the way that game played out?
For sure. I think it brings playing with those two, Oso and Marky, it brings different looks to our build. It's that kind of double pivot is difficult to pick up. It shares the workload a little bit. I'd say there's a little bit more athleticism in there right now. I love how Marky rolls out to the right-hand side or the left to allow our fullbacks to get forward at times. I think they've got a nice relationship, Marky and Oso. And sometimes without big Michael Bradley in there, you just play with a little bit more freedom. I think they share the responsibility or the burden that Michael takes on. But yeah, I didn't even notice Aronson. I agree with you. I wonder whether it was solely those two taking care of him, or whether his head was in the clouds a little bit with a potential move to Red Bull Salzburg.
Right. Who knows? I mean, he came back at a good game against Cincinnati midweek. I believe they won 3-0 there.
Which turns the dial more to what you're saying.
Yeah, I look at it. Someone reached out to me at Gareth Wheeler and just said, how does Bradley get back in the team right now? And I was thinking to myself, well, it's Michael Bradley. He gets back in. The dynamic changes a little bit. And that kind of left wing position with Altidore out of the team, it's being taken up by Nick DeLeon. I don't think DeLeon right now, just where his physical state is, he's an every game 90-minute player. Of course, Osorio can play up there as well. It gives you options. And honestly, when you look at this Toronto FC midfield, there might be room for a young player to kind of make their way in. Some games you want 3, some games you want the double pivot. But for me, Terry, there's more than enough games and more than enough different shapes for this kind of to work out where Bradley, Osorio, and Delgado all get their minutes.
For sure. It's a great problem to have. And I'd say within games too, as we're seeing, there's different moments, there's different score lines, and the more pieces or players that you have available to you, to the better. But I think with Marky and also, it feels a little bit more dynamic. It allows you, when it's on, to maybe press a little bit higher as well. But or even if you're protecting your box, I noticed in the last game against New England, TFC didn't give the ball carrier any time on the ball. They were in the faces of their man where they couldn't put any quality into the box.
Speaking with Greg Vanney, that's one of the, when asking him about the success of this team, he says the way that we're pressing, and it's not always like, gung-ho, 100 miles per hour all the time, but the way that they're pressing is giving teams a real difficulty building out of the back. And I agree. And that's what the legs of Marky Delgado does. I had some troll that kept on messaging me about Marky Delgado. Like, what do people see in him? I don't rate him. It was very disparaging. I'm like, if you ask any coach around Major League Soccer, every 26 out of 26 would want a Marky Delgado on their team, because the work that he does allows everyone else to go out. It gives them a platform to do what they do best. It's not always sexy, Terry, but you need players like that in the team. I just think he's so valuable to this group.
Yeah, and I think there's more to that game now. I think, because maybe he didn't have the name of a Vasquez or Bradley or whatever it might have been a few years ago. It's, Marky's a player that connects the team. Well, look at that ball he played in depth to Ayo in the last game with his left foot. a lot more to his game. And I thought the adjustments against Philly, just going back to that game, were excellent.
Yeah, please do.
Where we started to put early balls into the box. We didn't let their two center backs kind of get into spots to defend. I thought it was a wicked cross from Gallagher to Ayo at the back post. It was kind of cool in his post-game interview that he just said, put it in a good area. I know Ayo will be there. Didn't take any credit for it at all. That showed some nice humility.
His first assist in Major League Soccer. And you're right. Those were adjustments on the fly. It's kind of like for like, Gallagher for Morrow, but Altidore came off the field and De Leon came off and changed the shape a little bit. But other than conceding the goal in the 4th minute, which wasn't Omar Gonzalez, wasn't his best moment. Didn't think the angle was great that Westberg played it either, but it was kind of a broken down play, just a Mavinga header down, quick counterattack, mistake, back of the net. But that happened in the 4th minute. And after that, Terry, it was one-way traffic. Like, TFC were that good. Like, it was ridiculous how well they played that game. It was honestly a joy to watch. And they deserved both goals. Like, the Gallagher ball to Ayo, great ball, good finish. And I think you and I have been clamoring for this on previous podcasts. Just the goals off set pieces haven't been there this year for Toronto FC. Well, corner kick, it's not Gonzalez getting to it, it's Chris Mavinga getting to the ball. And how a defensive unit leaves Alejandro Pozuelo wide open far post. And yes, now we know he can, in fact, head a ball because it was a very good finish with his head as well for the game-winning goal.
Yeah, he still had a lot to do. I thought it was clever how he just drifted off the shoulder of Martinez. And normally you'll see a header go back across the keeper. He decides to go for the near side, and he's got to put a little bit of power into that header. But I thought it was really clever. He almost goes with Martinez, and then at the last minute just kind of goes off his shoulder. And as soon as you can see the numbers of your opponent, he's lost them. And it was a great header. I thought after the changes, TFC attack looked a little bit more dynamic. It looked a little bit quicker. There was more ball speed to it. And TFC got what they deserved. And look, when you concede in the 4th minute, it's easy to lose your head and go off task and kind of start your own game plan and get frustrated. But the guys stuck with what they know, this new TFC way, which is moving that ball quick, and they got what they deserved.
Player of the month, Alejandro Pozuelo, 7 goals, 9 assists. That MVP or MV Pozuelo campaign going strong. Richie Larea, Canadian soccer player of the month. Like, the accolades keep on coming. Bones and Ayo in the most recent team of the week. It's just every single player is playing on a ridiculous level. And I thought that Philadelphia, a complete team effort. And you ask yourself, how are they going to back up, come off a big win against Columbus? How would they respond? And I honestly thought they picked up right where they left off in that second half where they played Columbus off the field.
Yeah, for sure. And the football's fun to watch right now. And maybe we're not having as much territory in the opponent's half away from home, but some of the play in transition, some of the one-touch football to get in behind is excellent. I think it's a great feeling as a player is knowing exactly what your role is in each moment of the game. I think it's crystal clear for the players. I thought the players that came in brought freshness to the team and gave one or two a rest, and they really performed, and they're going to give Greg a little bit of a headache as well. But the team's just ticking over nicely, and you can see on, Eric's doing a great job on our social media account, but I think the team's just enjoying football right now. They're enjoying life. They're just loving playing.
I just look no further than Pozuelo's reaction after he scored that goal. It would be easy to make excuses and sulk about playing in Hartford, being away from your family. But I'm looking at things the other way, Terry. It's like, if you're going to be away from your loved ones from an extended stretch, you're trying to make do during this COVID period, just don't half-ass it. Make the most of it. Make sure that you're doing all this and making these sacrifices for something, not nothing. So I'm looking at it inspiring this team in a completely different way. So you're not sitting there sulking, thinking, oh, this is horrible. You're thinking, you know what? We're going to endure this together. We're going to come out on top. And I just love that attitude. And it looks like it's permeating between the team, throughout the team, I should say.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's exactly what's happened. But there's a heaviness that can come along with that as well, where we're away from home. Okay, let's dig in. Let's, go to war together, band of brothers. But there's still, I think, Wheels, a lightness to this group where they're light, bright, and clear, and they're seeing solutions, and they're playing some really good football along the way. So I think it's kind of a balance of enjoying their football, but also like what you said, that look, we're away from home. Our goal is to win the Supporters Shield, and let's do everything we can to do that. Congratulations to Chris Mavinga, his first Major League Soccer assist. I had to bring that up because he took to his Instagram, I believe, and said, or Twitter or whatever, and was like, I came away with my first assist. I didn't even notice at that time, or didn't know that he hadn't picked up an assist before. So big congrats, big shout out to Chris Mavinga, who's playing some outstanding football at present time. So with those 2 wins from the 2 games, looky. After all the doom and gloom and prognostication of disaster for this TFC team, a few short months ago, it's your Reds who are top the table, 34 points, the most points in all of Major League Soccer, and 3 points better than anyone else in the Eastern Conference. They've won 5 of their last 6 games, undefeated in their last 6. It shouldn't surprise, but for whatever reason, people love to try to kick dirt on this team when they're down. But I'm sorry, there's just too much quality in the team, and they're too well coached to not regularly challenge and pick up points and do the job against the best teams in this league, Terry. 100%. And, I watched a little bit of Columbus and Montreal last night, and you felt like our rivals at the top were Columbus, and you see them turned over by Montreal at home. So I don't think there's anybody that scares me right now. Maybe Seattle, but looking at the East, even before the game, Bruce Arena was saying, yeah, it's a good test for us to come up against Toronto because they're the best team. It'll show us where we're at. It's a good segue because Seattle's also won 5 of their last 6 games. They're on 30 points. They have the best record in the Western Conference, which, if we're going to be honest, isn't that good. I mean, Portland's right behind them on 27. After that, Sporting Kansas City. I think when they have a full 11, when Polito's leading the line, they're a very dangerous team, but there isn't all that much quality or consistency in the Western Conference. So is that what we're looking at yet again? This could be just put it on repeat for the last 5 years. TFC Seattle Sounders. Are we really going in that direction? Are these 2 clubs really that far ahead of everyone else? And look, Terry, it's not just the same old players coming back. Both teams have turned over and had to recruit and bring new players into the team. So it's not as if it's like the status quo is being keeping them on top. What do you make of that? Yeah, I was thinking about it in the car today. I mean, what's bringing the sustained success in Seattle? And I think it's a team that is very efficient. They play a certain way. They don't give you a ton. When their team is set, it doesn't change a whole bunch. I think going and playing in Seattle is difficult, but they're I'd say efficient is the word, and they're a stable team. They've got difference makers in the team. There's pace, and they kind of keep you on one side of the field and then break. And I mean, I could 100% see TFC playing Seattle in the final. I think LAFC on their day are good too, and it's a little bit different. They just can't defend. Like, I think they might be. Bob Bradley might be giving me a ring to come in and fill a gap at center back. Like, honestly, Terry, like watching them try to defend, and when they're up against it in big moments, they're absolutely shocking. Like, they can score goals. That's fine. They're going to have to outscore their mistakes.
That's why for me, structure wins out, and the structure of Seattle and the structure of TFC is better. Like, look, TFC over recent years have lost Javinko, Vasquez, Moore, Beitashour, Benazet. Like, go down the list of big, important players in this team. Seattle, I believe from last year, have lost both center backs. Like, they've had to rebuild their back line, and they added João Pedro and a couple of years ago, Rui Diaz. Like, they're just a machine. And I think that coaching has a lot to do with it. Recruitment has a lot to do with it. And like the mentality inside each room, like it has to go beyond just play. Like, this is a league where there's a salary cap. There's supposed to be parity. There really is parity elsewhere, with the exception of TFC and Seattle just seem to be the ones coming out on top.
Yeah. Well said. I like the word describing Seattle as a machine. And I'd say they're that for sure. But it's also a strange year this year. It's a difficult one with obviously the pandemic, but wouldn't
that open up the door for other teams? Like, you think that, okay, it's not a normal season. TFC isn't playing a game at home anymore. I don't know. It's just, there's something in the water, or there's something within the culture of the team that just continues to bring success.
And then the closer you get, having that experience of, not to point out the obvious, of having lived it and gotten there before, there's something to be said for that too. And it looks as though TFC and Seattle on the West are in the driver's seat, and there's a real hungriness around this group of TFC players right now. It's cool to see.
Let's talk about the squad, because TFC will deal with the injuries of Justin Morrow, who will be out a couple of weeks with a mild calf strain, Altidor's hamstring. It hasn't been determined how long it's going to keep him out, but based upon track record and history, don't expect Altidore back for the foreseeable. It's a busy stretch. I've already said that over the course of this podcast. FC Cincinnati coming up, another game on turf on Sunday. Then instead of having those 4 days between games, there's only 3 before they're back in Hartford playing the New York Red Bull. So that is a congested schedule, another game on turf without 2 key core pieces of this team. Is there a player or players that you're looking to? How much rotation would you like to see in the team? And how does Toronto FC get the most out of this group without sacrificing too much over the short term?
Yeah, I think a little bit of pressure wheels is relieved coming off the back of 4 wins. We're maybe not chasing points. I think, Cincinnati will be a game. I think TFC feel like they can win every game. But that'll be another game to hopefully keep this momentum going. I wouldn't be surprised if Omar maybe comes back in team. Having said that, Simon was good. I'm a bit gutted for Josie. I was seeing improvement over the last couple of games, and
yes,
he was getting a little bit fitter. His minutes were a little bit longer. At times, defensively, you're seeing him out on the left-hand side, which doesn't maybe necessarily suit his skill set, but he was playing for the team. He was saying all the right things in the media. I think he is a big loss, and down the stretch could be an important piece. Look, he was probably the piece missing for us to get over the line and win the MLS Cup last year. But maybe we didn't have Ayo last year. And I think this group knows each other a little bit better. Pozuelo's playing on another level. We've seen Mullins in his cameo role kind of appearances doing okay. So I think we can survive, I guess, without Josie, but time will tell in those big moments where he has stepped up in the past, but you need him out on the field.
Right. It showed how important that pickup of Tony Gallagher actually was. I don't think he's been spectacular, but he's been steady. He's done his job as he still amalgamates into the team. But Auro Jr. is back right now. So that kind of covers for the JMO loss. And I think you got to kind of rotate through Richie, Auro, Tony. We've seen Nick De Leon play at the back at times. Maybe you want to switch things up, try playing 3 center halves with Simon in the team. There's multiple solutions to that. But there's a couple players that I want to maybe take a little bit more of a look at. And and they're all Canadian, and they're all players that have come through the academy. The academy. You mentioned Jaquil Marshall-Rutty. We haven't seen him yet. I'd like to see him in the right situation, maybe coming on after an hour, playing the final 30 minutes of a game. I'd like to see that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Jaden Nelson, I'd like to see him have another go to really develop the proper footballing mentality, what it takes for a young player to play in this group. He's got the tricks, he's got the skills, but does he have the demeanor yet? And I think that you're only going to see that by him actually playing competitive football. And while Michael Bradley's out, there's a good chance for Liam Fraser to come in and prove that he is a winner, that he does have that eye of the tiger, pardon the cliche, to go out there and kind of play with that winning mentality that you see from the likes of Osorio and Delgado and Bradley, who are keeping him down the pecking order. So I want to see what those three can bring to the table specifically.
Yeah, me too. I think with Jaden and Jaquil, you want to put them in an environment where you protect them a little bit, and their matchups are good, and they're gonna leave the field with a positive feeling. And it's also up to these kids to really earn that opportunity. Look, you're coming into a team that's top of the league. You're not going to be given anything, but
right.
with a ton of games coming up, it'd be nice to see how these guys are doing for sure. But I still think it's on them to really earn that opportunity and take that shirt off of whoever it's going to be. And being away from home wheels will have been great for these young players to really see what it's like to live, breathe, and eat being a professional soccer player and
right.
being around some of these senior pros. And it's up to them in training to say, you know what, Greg, I'm ready. And I've got we saw it at MLS's back in the knockout game that, if he feels you're ready, Jaden Nelson, he played against New York City.
I can see a situation when there's multiple changes for Sunday, with Q coming back in, with Omar replacing Mavinga, give him a break until getting back on grass in Hartford this week. I can see Fraser coming in for one of Markey or Oso, not sure which one. You keep Pozzuelo, you keep Ayo. I think both players are showing that they can play, that they have the durability right now, and then you bring in two new wing players to replace De Leon and Piatti. Piatti's played a lot of football, and we know what he's coming back from. I think that's logical to come and give him a breather, and then which opens the door for a Nelson, a Schaffelberg, an Endo, a Gallardo, those players who can play that role to come in and put in a shift. And I know Endo's had success in Cincinnati before. He might be a logical player to come into the equation.
Yeah, good point. And it'd be nice with maybe one of these young players to come in and, make an impression and really say, you know what, I'm not just here for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or, because we're doing the right thing for the academy. I'd love to see one of the kids come in and say, you know what, I'm going to take my learnings from training and really grab this game or whatever moment comes their way by the scruff of the neck, and not only be reliable, but go out and make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think, the young guys that have come in, they've done all right, but what's next? And to stay in a team in professional soccer, you got to end up taking the shirt off somebody else. And look, TFC are the best of the business, and this team's firing on all cylinders. And this was going to be a test. Look, New York City, Columbus, Philadelphia, New England, all away from home to come away with 12 points. That's incredible. Good
stuff, Terry. We're going to work into this week's high five, and it's going to be, paying tribute to a great teammate, a great guy in Alex Bono. Congratulations goes out to Bones. He picked up his 50th win in all competitions for Toronto FC. He is a club leader in that category, club leader in clean sheets now as well, with his most recent clean sheet, and he had his 100th start in all competitions. So, maybe say a word or two about Alex, because, Westberg's slotted in. He's done a job. He's an older goalkeeper. For me, Alex is still the goalkeeper of the future for Toronto FC. He's still a very young man who's achieved a whole lot in a short period of time at Toronto FC.
Yeah, geez. Big congrats to Alex. it's been interesting for him since coming in. It was a crazy ride where just everything. He was on fire. He wasn't thinking. It was unconscious decision making, and he never really made any mistakes and all of a sudden he's winning MLS Cups. He's being linked to big clubs in Europe. He signs a new contract. He never really went through any adversity. And this is part of being a goalkeeper, a young keeper, that there's going to be a time where it becomes difficult, and how you handle that is what will set you up for a career, Wheels. Right. And one thing that was great for Alex was, and it's tough at the time, but it was Westberg coming in and Greg kind of taking him out of the firing line. And as much as he wanted to play and believe that, you know what, I am the number one, I've shown that you could do it. And he was given a couple of other opportunities and it kind of went all right, but there wasn't enough in his performance to say, you know what, I'm ready to play week in, week out. Westberg came in and showed that he's a very good goalkeeper. His profile and characteristics suited TFC's new style of play, where he could help TFC play out of the back. Alex, when he came in, he tried to do that. It didn't quite work. And Alex just spent some time probably soul searching, had a nice training spell over Christmas, and just really started probably to focus on his core principles and what makes Alex Bono a good goalkeeper. And when I am thrown another bone from the coaching staff, I'm going to be ready. And all I can do is keep clean sheets. And it's a long process. It would have been easy for Alex and TFC to part companies through this, maybe look for a trade or look to blame others. But I think John Conway, the goalkeeping coach, and the staff, kept Alex even keeled. I'm sure he had dark days, Wheels, where it was like, what am I doing here? I want to be playing. But I think, if he comes through the right side of this and, can put together another 100 games, then, we say that, yeah, this was part of the process.
Well, he's a great guy.
He's words.
Sure. No. I think that you painted the proper picture.
The other thing I'd say, Will, is he's a big personality, which makes it tough. He's very outgoing. He can influence others, but I'm so happy for him. And even the couple mistakes he's making are mistakes where he's trying to be positive and trying to make plays. And this is,
you can't argue with results, Terry. 3 games, 3 clean sheets this season. There isn't anything better than that.
Feedback.
Yeah. So congratulations to him. A great guy from a great family as well. And what I love, if you watched Toronto FC's latest all-for-one moment, at the end of the game, he was talking about numbers, but he says the only number that matters is we're top the table. And the 3 points, that's what matters the most. A consummate team player. So congratulations to Alex Bono, which brings us to tonight's High Five.
High five.
Okay.
And we're going to welcome in producer Jerome Cheng to participate. Jerome, just sitting in the weeds, listening to us shoot the breeze.
You know what? I always love hanging back and just listening through. So I'm just happy to hop on when we need the most random of high fives involved.
Well, we were thinking about something because we were debating this week, and Terry's been busy, but we want to do our own version of an ask me anything. So an Ask Terry anything. I think we should come up with a different alliteration, like Talk to Terry, TTT, and people maybe in an upcoming episode can send in questions, anything, and Terry Dunfield can go about answering questions from the fans, your fans, Terry.
Our fan, anything.
If they have a question, you answer. Now, Jerome will vet them beforehand, so don't worry.
We will have some producer vetting in the process. We will not put you on the spot.
Wheels, you're not allowed to ask questions, man. No,
I ask enough.
Yeah,
this is for everyone else to ask. Ask Terry the meaning of life. Well, it all started. No, seriously, we'll do that at some point. But tonight, to pay homage to the great Alex Bono, we're going to present our top 5 Alexes. So people name Alex. Now, Jerome and I have had a chat about this. It has to be someone whose name is Alex or Alexander, or you would actually call them Alex.
Yes. Yeah. We really had to go through the details because I had a couple of names in mind. I wanted to do, like Alexis or Alexandra, but you made it very clear, and I am, if anything, about the rules. So I'm all set on that front.
Right.
Who's leading off?
Do you want to go first? I'll let you lead off.
I'll go first. All right.
Okay. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, since you did mention the All for One moment, I did get a pick from All for One producer Greg Veerman. When you presented the high five, I was actually talking to him through some content ideas that we want to do in the future. And he presented what he would pick as his top Alex Greenwald. He is the lead singer of the band Phantom Planet. For some fans who I see, this is my favorite part. And I'm so glad we have this on YouTube because I told Greg, I'm like, there is no way this is going to come through. But this is exactly why we're going to do it. So Alex Greenwald, are you familiar with the show The OC?
I am, yeah, but I've never heard of the band Phantom Planet.
Well, they sing California, the theme song for The OC. There you go.
God. Okay.
How did you not know
horrible
that?
song. Absolutely
Terry's a big Phantom Planet fan. You know that,
what
right?
a junk song. He is in your top 5 people named Alex?
I mean, Greg Veerman's in my top 1 people in the world. So if I can pay any tribute to him, I will 100% do that. So I'm going with Alex Greenwald.
Way to just break Terry Dunfield's heart. He thought he was your number 1. Wow.
The
truth comes out. Next week, we'll ask Terry how he feels about Jerome shattering his heart into a million pieces.
Come on, Jerome.
I have who I want as number 5, but based upon my own authoritarian, I can't even say this, my own draconian rules, let's go with that one, that I don't think it'll count. Because I wanted to go Alec Baldwin, but he goes Alec, even though his name is really Alexander.
See, this is where...
And the reason why I wanted to include it is because in an interview I did with Bill Manning a few months ago, he used to hang out with the Baldwin brothers.
I thought
so. I wanted to work it in, so I think that I might be able to make an exception here. Because he said
I'll let you make
in high school
here.
They used to call him Alex or Xander. So his Hollywood kind of mantra is Alec. I think he's hilarious. He's self-deprecating. His Trump impression is spot on. 30 Rock, great show. And honestly, go ahead.
What's the movie where he goes into nature? And he's with the bear. I love that movie.
The Wild? No, I know what you're talking about here.
The Edge.
The Edge.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking for mindless television to watch, Match Game, quality show, good host, funny comedians. If you weren't going to give me Alec Baldwin, I was going to go with Alexander Graham Bell, just because he invented
that was one of my picks.
Very cool. Okay.
I was going to honor the man who really put us on the path that led us to the Zoom call right here. Just gave us the initial technology.
Whoa, well said, Jerome.
So that was actually my second pick right there. So you've you nailed Alexander Graham Bell for me.
Comeback player.
I'm taking him off my list now because now we have to suffer through Zoom calls because of this Alexander Graham Bell kick.
I've got him at number 4. He's on my list too.
Oh, you have a list, Terry. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Who'd you got at number 5? I just assumed this week that you were too busy, too stressed out.
So I did the first 5 Alexes that come to mind.
Okay. I like that. Okay. Yeah.
So I'll go back to front. So the 5th one that came to mind was Alexander the Great.
Okay.
Yep.
The conqueror mentality. Yeah.
Yep.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then number 4 is Alexander Bell. So I'm on
right.
From Brantford,
which was mine.
Ontario.
So we can definitely jump to you, Wheels. That was my second right there.
All right.
So who do you have at 2?
I'm not a huge hockey guy, but I got to give a shout out to Alexander Ovechkin. 706 career NHL goals. I think Wayne Gretzky, who's also from Brantford, by the way, Alexander Graham Bell and Wayne Gretzky from Brantford. Wow. He has 894. And Ovechkin might catch him. And I love how he's consistently been underappreciated in this country because Canadian hockey snobs, because he's Russian. But he's absolutely fantastic. He's hilarious. He's a little bit overweight, but he plays with edge. I love that guy. Alexander Ovechkin.
I do not know a lot about hockey, but I did enjoy his Stanley Cup celebrations throughout once he did win. So that
I think it's still happening. Like,
is it still in the moment?
A year and a half later, probably. So yeah. Ovechkin.
All right, Terry. Who do you have at your third pick then?
Wheels, I'm going to probably take your number one here.
Oh, you will be taking my number one. I know it.
Oh, sorry, man. Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
The third name that came to mind.
There isn't another third. Two other Alexes came to mind ahead of Sir Alex Ferguson.
My head was in a shed, man. I was in a tough place after tonight's session.
1986 to 2013, just a legendary run. No club, no manager will ever run like that ever again. 13 Premier League titles over that span. I mean, I think I've told this story before. One of my biggest regrets is I turned down an opportunity to meet Sir Alex Ferguson. He's my personal hero. I would love to name my firstborn son Ferguson, but my wife won't let me, but that's another story. But I came back, I landed from South Africa, and Sir Alex Ferguson and Manchester United were in Toronto to play Celtic, and he did Off the Record with Michael Landsberg. And the crew invited me up to meet Sir Alex, but I had just moved in with my wife. She was my girlfriend at that time. And I hadn't even seen her house. Like, I was literally on my way back. I'm like, I need to go to my new house. You moved all my stuff into this place. I'd be such a jerk if I didn't do it. So I picked my relationship over meeting my hero.
That's a good guy. That's a good guy.
I still regret it to this day. Yeah, he is my number one.
All right. Well, I'll pick up at 3. I'll keep it in soccer. U.S. women's national team member Alex Morgan.
Okay, good one. I like her. Good player.
Yeah,
she was my number 6.
She just made it on the outside there. All right.
There is another women's player, Alex Greenwood, who plays for Manchester United women's team. By the way,
okay.
Sounds very familiar to, again, Alex Greenwald of Phantom Planet.
Sounds very similar, but way better than Phantom. Whatever.
All right. All right. Wheels. Who do you have? Where are we at right now? We're at 2.
Well, I gave my 1. I only have 2 more to give.
Okay, let's go to Terry for 2.
I remember watching him in Vancouver when he played for Canada, and I loved it. I don't know who did the commentary on it, but Alex Bunbury.
Vic Rabbit.
I don't know. Yeah, Bunbury. That was awesome. Maybe Teal playing last night, coming off the bench, his son. He gave our academy some really nice feedback. His other son plays for Minnesota. I believe he lives in Minnesota potentially, or maybe just on, he kind of was like, I thought Canadian soccer players were a little bit soft and you don't really get being professional soccer players. So he watched the academy play and said, okay, you guys are on the right path. So that was kind of nice last year.
One of Canada's greatest strikers of all time, played over in Portugal, but I grew up as a child watching the Hamilton Steelers play in the Canadian Soccer League in the shadows of the old Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton when he was a member of the Hamilton Steelers. And Teal was actually born in Hamilton. So
he made him, he should have played for Canada.
Oh, he was a great player. I was a big fan.
He would have played games and helped our team back in the day.
Totally.
All right. I will come in with my number 2. I'll go fiction for this one. The character Alex DeLarge of A Clockwork Orange.
Was that his name?
Yeah, it was the main character for it.
Have you watched that movie?
I can't get my head
recently.
Around.
That movie, I just
not.
can't. I watched it for the first time. I took a film class. I thought it'd be like a Rocks for Jocks, basically, in university. And I watched it like, what the hell? You want me to write about this? Like, it kept me up for days. I still don't. Yeah, if you haven't watched it before, if you want to be disturbed for a good week,
it is a disturbing film, but it is a very compelling character, and I'll give him his nod on this since it is a game of Alex's. All right,
I'll go with also a fictional character, but much more lighter. Alex P. Keaton from Family Ties.
I felt like you were going to go there. Michael
J. Fox. What a role. Family, like, if you didn't watch it back in the day, his parents were kind of like, I don't know if hippies is the right word, but he was like a staunch Republican teenager, and all he wanted to do was make money, and he was like prim and proper. He played that role so perfect, which was completely opposite to Marty McFly in Back to the Future. And Alex P. Keaton, that name turned into a great bar in London, Ontario when I went to Western as well. So the Alex P. Keaton, great name for a bar, great television character, one of the best of all time. So shout out to MJ, the other MJ, Michael J. Fox, and Alex P. Keaton.
Good shout, man.
I
don't want to say mine after that.
Well, we all have one more, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Terry, because I think Jerome and mine might be the same.
No, actually, I know I was going to go that direction. That is a very...
Okay.
I will let you have that one. I'm actually just going to go a personal one. A very good friend of mine, Alex Kim. Nobody knows who he is, but he is one of the most talented editors over at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. We started together actually on the exact same day. I started as an intern. He started as a full-time editor. So we've basically just kind of come up together. And once this came up, I was like, I got to shout out my guy. So
great.
Shout out Alex Kim.
I like that, buddy. I like that. Nice touch. Nice,
Jerome.
All right. And can you answer yours in the form of a question, perhaps, Gareth Wheeler?
I want to hear Terry's first.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
The first name that came to mind, maybe because he announced the Senators' first-round draft pick, Alex Trebek.
There it is. Of course. There's nothing.
I thought you were going to go in another direction. Trebek is my number 2 after Sir Alex Ferguson.
That's exactly why I asked if you want to ask in the form of a question. Who is Alex Trebek?
One of the greatest Canadians, 80 years old, in a fight for his life right now against cancer. That voice, the presentation. I last winter, I was doing a tour of Hearst Castle, which is kind of in between San Francisco and LA as we drove down Highway 1. And the guided tour was the voice of Alex Trebek. It's just
that's wonderful.
From Sudbury, Ontario. What a guy. He mixes that nerdy knowledge, a little bit of awkwardness with with humor and grace. He's just the perfect game show host, isn't he? I love Alex Trebek.
Well put, man.
See, I thought you were going to say Alex McKechnie. Your
I should have said
your boy. Oh, Terry.
He's the guy that kept Kawhi Leonard healthy. I thought both of you were going to come up with that number 1.
That's a fair one. No,
mate.
That's your
Alex
guy.
McKechnie.
We missed our, we didn't even get a basketball reference on this episode.
Did you?
Oh boy.
Half they just text me how did you not say Alex McKechnie?
Yeah.
But that's a good shout. That's a very good shout. I think Trebek is he was such the obvious first pick in my mind when Alex's came, that it was almost like one of us is definitely going to get it or definitely choose it. It's almost like just don't even put it in your list at that point because it's going to come out no matter what. It's a given. Right. But a wonderful man. And of course, shout out Alex McKechnie. Me, ever the Raptors fan. Terry, ever the best friend of his. So
not anymore. He just wasn't close. He just wasn't on top of your mind, Terry. Alexander the Great was, but not your mate.
Well, here, let's just do some revisionist history. We thought he was referring to the historical figure, but when he meant Alexander the Great, he meant Alexander the Great McKechnie. That his boy right there. That was his pick in that moment.
Tough backstroke, but thanks.
but by the way, I think the more that we say the name, I really like the name Alex. That's a good name, Alex.
Would you ever go full Alexander, or would you just always stick with Alex?
Oof. That's a good question. Maybe I'll ask Bones if he ever wanted to be called just Xander. Xander's a decent name too.
Xander's not bad. Yeah, I like that. I'll tell you one of the odd picks that I wanted to do that would have been just really off. When we were going into it, I thought of the song "You Can Call Me Al" by Paul Simon. Yep. And I wanted to find out what the story was behind it, if there was an Alex, so I could say that person, the most random name. But I found out afterward, actually, this song was inspired by Paul himself mistakenly being called Al. Oh. And because of that, part of the song is sure, you can call me Al. So unfortunately, there wasn't an Alex to put on that list, but that was the one I was stretching for in that moment.
And I could call you Betty. I was thinking, I'm really... Go ahead, Terry.
Al McGinnis. How did I not think of Al McGinnis?
But it's not Alex. You just call him Al.
This is where
there's lots of Al's, right? But Alex is different than just Al, because Al could be Albert or Alfred.
Right.
You know, we're talking Alex. So
see, this is where we were getting into the details of it. So like given names, I wasn't sure if that was going to play because normally like that's where the Alec Baldwin controversy at the top.
Right. But his name actually is Alexander. So
Which
I
is
felt
totally
like that
fine.
was a good
Yeah.
cheat.
No.
So for your listeners out there, we do put some thought into the podcast, believe it or not.
Without question.
Each and every week. We don't need Yacht Rock to carry the show. We have random high fives. In this week's high five, your top 5 Alexes. Good stuff, boys. Another week in the books. I guess we'll reconvene next week. 2 more games to break down. TFC, FC Cincinnati, Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch that on TSN. Join me at around 6:35 for your TFC pregame live on Facebook Live after 90 minutes after that. And we'll do it all over again Wednesday night, back in the home away from home of Hartford, Connecticut, TFC, New York Red Bulls. Terry Dunfield, hang in there this week. Everything is going to be okay. Just look in the mirror every morning and say,
I'm going to be working with Terry tomorrow. We got to shoot together.
Really?
Yes,
Just
we
get
do.
Terry looking into the mirror, saying this over and over again. I'm a great coach. I'm a great coach. I'm a great coach. I'm a great coach. And then you'll see one solitary tear roll down his cheek. You're great, buddy. Keep up the good work, okay?
Thanks.
So Terry Dunfield will feel more like a Teary Dunfield, is what you're trying to say?
Oh, gosh. It takes work to have worse puns than me because I set a very, very high bar for bad puns. But
If
I think
anything,
you just
you've
cleared
brought
it,
me to
Jerome
another
Chang.
level, Gareth.
Oh.
That's what it is right there.
When the top five Gareths come out, I'm definitely not going to make that list. I have no Alex Kim. Great stuff, Jerome. Nice work.
Thank you very much. This was fun.
On that note, keep on using the hashtag TFC Live. We'll be back next week. On behalf of Terry, Jerome, it's been a pleasure. And this has been episode 206 of Come On You Reds.